Hello, everyone, and welcome to something a little bit different. Today we are doing Rune Level 16 Invasions and Co-op. Why Rune Level 16? Well, it's kind of just where my stats ended up because I wanted to try some low level stuff and because I've just been very excited about the new patch, and I wanted to test out the hyper armor with some axes and just generally have a good time and also show off some of the more relaxing stuff with co-op as well as some of the more high energy stuff with invasions because we have a lot of co-op players in this game as well as PvP. So might as well show off everything. And here I got a bad spawn into Castle Morne, and because the Phantom saw me and waved, I decided to not shoot lots of ballista bolts at them because I was frustrated that you can't run back up the cliffside. Yeah. Um, a couple of very quick details about the build. Right here, I'm kind of just using what I would say passive bleed build-up weapons because they have their own natural, about 50-ish bleed per hit. So it's not going to be like the high-level arcane scaling, but with enough hits, you can still get the job done, and it's pretty effective at lower levels because people don't have the resistances. Now, I am using Radigan's Sword Seal because it's effectively 20 levels of because the damage percentages aren't going to be too crazy at this level. So taking 10% extra damage is different because I have more flat resistances and a significant amount more health, stamina, and equip load. And those gravity fans are actually really well used. That Phantom has a good idea of what he's doing. But with newer players, you have to pick some of the simpler things of just like Claymore and sword or old-fashioned sword and board. And here I'm kind of going for a strength faith build for taking when it goes to higher level. Yeah, and I also just love the Clamber. Storm Stomp is still really powerful even without the hyper armor. Here I'm trying to go for a little bit of a cheeky crit riposte, but I was unable to get it. But the one-handed running R2 on Great Surge is awesome. And here you can see on this next hit, the bleed buildup, if you just consistently hit, is great. And you do run into a good amount of just there are still gankers, but at low level there's a good amount of honest co-op. One of the things you need to watch out for potentially is over-leveled phantoms that are password summoned. Now that's not the case here. However, I'm being very cautious because there's not much PvE around. Because they're just kind of standing in the middle of a field. Now, for those unfamiliar, an overleveled phantom is a password summoned phantom that is outside of the level range where you could normally summon phantoms at. Now, I personally don't have any problem with just the concept because the concept's great. You and your friend have characters at different levels. You can password summon, and you can both be in the same game playing co-op. And like if you have a lot more hours in the game than your friend and your character's a higher level, like you don't have to spend a ton of time like recreating a character. Concept-wise, it's great, but there's plenty of problems that it causes in PvP. But that's an entire video's worth of explaining. Um, but here, we just have two normal level guys. However, I am wary that the mage might be higher level. However, using the glintstone wave, I'm just like, oh, this is relatively appropriate level. And although I am using weapons that are like not necessarily just like immediately in Limgrave, like the Misery Courts and Stormvale, the Bloodhound Claws are technically in Gelmir. You can just like get I would consider these like pretty fair weapons, like with the Highland Axe, because I'm not using Scarlet Rod or anything that's like I'm not using underleveled rivers or rivers of blood. Like, all of these things are very attainable at low level with only a few bosses that you have to deal with. Here, I just cannot hit the mage, even with like the shield sling, and it's just unfortunate that I can't hit the mage very effectively. However, in a little bit, you are about to see just the power of hyper armor, because the host is trying to get his phantom off. Actually, I don't even think I hyper armored that. I just went a couple axe stuff to the back and got the crit. And funny enough, the phantom runs out of magic at that time. So low level ones are interesting because like you have a lot more limited resources, but ideally so do the host and phantom. So you can get a lot more either interesting or potentially like slightly longer inner-lasting invasions. And here we're gonna go beat up with Morgoth with Sam. Now, does co-op make boss fights easier? Yes. It's still really cool though when you have nice synergy, like Morningstar and Bloodhound Claws together both do passive build up, and together that just synergizes really well. And I feel like and Sam is an American baseball player. I was an American baseball player, and I feel like the Morningstar is a pretty appropriate weapon for just like swinging for home runs. Yeah. And every once in a while, well, also hopefully in this series, it's fun to see a boss that, especially like sometimes on first playthroughs, can be kind of walling or really annoying. And we just got to beat the snot out of Margit, and he deserved it. And this is an example of just like really solid teamwork and good stats, because the turtle shell increases stamina recovery speed. In contrast, you can have a boss fight be going pretty darn well, and then oops, the host didn't level vigor, or just literally came out of the thing and started summoning people to go fight the Tree Sentinel. And seeing the Tree Sentinel there again, you can probably guess about what's going to happen. Now, I'm not intending this to be like disrespect and shame. I am intending this to be laughs, because on everyone's first time playing through this game, if you played through it blind and walked up to Tree Sentinel, you probably could have gotten one shot. And there is actually like a cosplay invasion. Like Raptor's Talons are a really good PvP item. Like they have passive bleed, they have some true combos, and they have some jump stuff. And me being a PvP player, I was like, alright, I gotta take care of this invader. Except Tree Sentinel took care of the host before I could do that. And now here I'm fighting Godric with the host just named Monk. He is doing like a full profit build cosplay. Like he's just got like some like the basic faith spells. He's got like the starting spear, and yeah, and Godric, he can absolutely, despite being the weakest of the demigods, he can still hit like a truck. He's like 10 times our size and has 10 times as many arms. Here I go for the Misery crit, but I forgot that I forgot where in the health bar he chops his arm off to go to add a dragon to his arsenal. And knowing that I'm written level 60, there's a nice double crit on the boss. Like, I'd say, especially depending on whether or not people went to Caelid or found the way around to get to Liurnia, Monk and I are probably a little bit lower level than one would be fight Godric. However, just like being relatively familiar with the game and also having bleeding, the flat bleed buildup on some of these weapons, it makes it pretty good. And also I have very upgraded flasks, which I will talk about shortly. Yeah, there's good synergy. I managed to finish off Godric, and then he starts his very, very long monologue after death. Okay, as I just mentioned a moment ago, a lot of and here we're just in some Castle Morne for just some very relaxing PvE. You can get a lot of items that are really strong at really any level, but even especially a low level, that might not seem like you would be in like later areas of the game. However, the thing is, you can run, especially with Torrent, you can run past a lot of enemies. So if you wanted to make a low-level build kind of like this one, which I have +3 regular smithing, +1 somber smithing, you can run past a lot of the enemies and collect golden seeds, the sacred tears of the churches. Like for this build, like I didn't beat the draconic Tree Sentinel, and you can probably even use like the spirit summons to help cheese things. Like I used the jellyfish to help distract the bats to run through. I forget the fort, but it's the fort where you get the Altus Lift Medallion and Radigan's Soar Seal, and I used the jellyfish to help run past the bats in order to drop down and get through the roof and get the Soar Seal. However, I immediately died to the rats after getting the Soar Seal, but the point is I was still able to get the item that I needed without having, what I would say, speed run level skills. So if you're not super used to just like the running around and dodging moves, like it might take a little bit of practice, but it's pretty reasonable to be able to grab items like the Soar Seal in like a couple attempts. And then you have really powerful items like the Sacrificial Axe that I'm using, which restores FP on defeating an enemy, which goes really nicely with like Bestial Vitality. I used the Golden Epitaph, which has even at like +1 somber, and just with the Two Fingers talisman to increase faith to use it. When you use the Ash of War to buff, I was doing like 460 damage per hit to the Deathrite bird, kind of just like deleting his health bar. So there are weapons and effective strategies and other cheeses and like other, like, I say cheesy, but it's not like shooting Dragon Rider with a bow in Dark Souls 2 before entering the boss arena levels of cheese, but there's and there I'm just kind of testing out the damage of this Equata, but yeah, so there's a lot of things that you can do to give yourself the advantage to go get the items that you want, and all you really have to do is defeat Margit to get the second talismans. And the Soar Seals give you a lot of flat damage reduction, as well as like extra health and stamina, and in this case for Radicants, like extra strength and dex for wielding weapons like Sacrificial Axe, Flamberge. Although I don't use them here, I have the Zweihander and Troll's Golden Sword in my inventory. And like also same for the Gelmir armor, you can get the medallions and use the lift and just like run all the way through the hero's grave and grab the armor set that you want. So there's a lot of things you can do. Like it might be a little bit tedious, but you can get like the +10 flasks, or in this case I have like 5 red flasks, 1 blue in multiplayer. So it it is a lot of running around and a lot of prep, but you can make a really strong low level build. And though a lot of it does happen to depend on starting class choice. Like I used the Vagabond starting class because I knew that I wanted to go for a Strength Faith build because they're just some of my favorite. And things like that passive FP recovery and then bestial vitality for just because regen is really powerful at lower level because since you have smaller health, the regen covers like a larger percentage of your health. And if you have like the plus 10 flasks, pretty much each flask is a full heal. And if you're in the more level appropriate areas doing co-op and invasions, um, you pretty much just get a full heal, even though it takes enemies multiple hits in order to get you down to health. So you're at a huge advantage there. So, but I would recommend, like, if you're just playing the game for the first time, play the game. Don't necessarily worry about making a low build. But if you like enjoyed running around in like some of the simpler stuff in like Stormvale Castle, Castle Morne, like low level's fun. It's a unique, it's an interesting challenge, especially when I'm used to playing around like rune level 150. And also it is, again, just very satisfying to absolutely obliterate a boss. Because here we are going to absolutely go crush Lillian and Misbegotten. And also playing co-op, you get to see other people's builds. Like, if you just like seeing what if someone might be trying to cosplay or just playing with, like, I'm honestly very surprised we didn't get invaded during this entire trek through Castle Morne, but you can run into invaders for PvP. You can invade at low level, and like there's just so much great multiplayer in Elden. Granted, I know I've done a lot of invasions before on this channel, but I wanted to take some time to show off all of it, also just to see how like a little bit more with like the low level new playerish experience is like. So thank you all for joining me, everybody. And I'll catch you in the next one as we keep going with Elden Ring everything. Have a great day. See ya.